Good evening and welcome to the January 30th Board of Selectmen meeting. I ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We will start our meeting with the reading of the agenda. We will go over our January 16th meeting minutes. We will then move on to community relations, announcements, and open forums. We will then move to appointments and resignations, under which we have 3 items. Number 1 is an appointment for the Historical Commission. Number 2 is an appointment for the WRTA. And number 3 is a resignation for the Activities Council. We will then move to scheduled appointments, under which we have 3 appointments. We have a 6:40 appointment, a joint appointment with the Planning Board for an alternate. We have a 6:45 appointment for a public hearing for a request for poll for Bailey's Road, and a 7 o'clock appointment with Karen Firo for a water betterment reimbursements. We'll then move to new business, under which we have 3 items. Number 1 is a Charlton Open Space Plan, a letter of support. Number 2 is a site plan application for Rain for Rent. And number 3 is a site plan application for 0 Point Development. We'll then move to old business, under which we have 1 item. That is the surplus vehicle auction for an update. We'll then move to committee reports and board of selectmen policy reviews, then our student select persons report, and then our town administrator's report, and finally, other business that was unknown at the time of posting, under which we have a public records request. Our next meeting will be February 13th, and then we will adjourn. What are the board's wishes with our January 16th meeting minutes?
I move that we approve the meetings of January 16th.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move to community relations, announcements, and open forums. Please be aware that there is a winter parking ban in effect. A winter parking ban will be in effect during and 48 hours following a snowstorm of over 3 inches for this upcoming and all ensuing winters on all streets in the town of Charlton. Representative Peter Durant will be holding office hours in the Charlton Town Hall in the Selectmen's Meeting Room on Monday, February 5th from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. The Town Hall will be closed on Monday, February 19th in observance of President's Day. Are there any other announcements? Mr. Swenson.
I'd just like to take a second to thank all those who came out for the Race Foundation Taste of the Towns this past Sunday night. I haven't heard if there are final numbers yet, but my understanding was well attended, so I would just like to thank all the vendors who participated, those restaurants and establishments that donated the time and food and drink to make the event a success, all those who donated to the auctions, and to all those who purchased tickets and came out and made the event a success.
Thank you. Always a highlight of the year. Any other announcements? Is there anyone here for open forum? Please come up. Please make sure you identify your name and address for the record, and you may have the floor. And make sure you speak directly into the microphone.
My name is Sheila Hokinson. I live at 21 Power Station Road. Excuse me. And I'm just here I've written 3 letters last year, 3 months apart, asking the chief of police if they could kind of monitor the traffic coming down Brookfield Road. I copied you, and I copied Miss Robin Carver, also on one of them there, please. And the traffic and the logging trucks and everybody else and Sterling Cement and cars, they think it's 40, 45 mile an hour. When they come down, that's 25 miles an hour to Stafford Street. If they take a right and go down Power Station Road, that's 20 miles an hour. You would never know it, never. So I was just wondering if, what can we do, or who should I address in trying to get something to slow down the traffic? I'm just so afraid someone's going to get hit.
Right, absolutely. And it's a dangerous road. That's why it's
very dangerous.
I know that it's been the new chief's aim to help relieve traffic wherever possible, and he's been trying to send traffic enforcement whenever he can spare it. Also, I would forward this information to our new traffic advisory committee, citizen advisory committee,
they're a group of citizens we recently formed to look into issues like that, to see what we can do to change, to make recommendations for the road, for Mass DOT, for our town, and the police department. Mr. McGrath?
Through the chair. We also looked into with the chief of hiring another officer. The finance committee approved it, and there's going to be one officer dedicated to doing traffic enforcement for specific areas such as Brookfield Road, Brookfield Road and Osgood Road, Brookfield Road in the area that you're talking about, Center Depot Road, there's Stafford Street,
Mugget Hill.
Mugget Hill. We have, there's a
they're all-
list,
Yeah.
but there's a list that they have already. And what we'll do is as the chairman said, is we'll forward this to the Traffic Advisory Committee. They're diligently working on this stuff already, and we're trying to give them the tools to bring it under control.
That would be very nice. I'm just so concerned someone's going to get hurt. The school buses go around there very fast also. I mean, they come down Brookfield Road, for a student, I think it is, or whatever it is. They're at least 40 miles an hour too. And I just saw yesterday morning, I think it was, one coming out of Power Station Road onto Brookfield Road. She slowed down, but she didn't come to a complete stop, and she had children on that bus. So I think we need to address them also, you know? I mean, not only the trucks, but we're looking at safety here for everybody,
Right,
including children.
absolutely.
And that's my big thing, is all the kids. I would hate to see somebody get hurt.
Exactly.
We don't have any little ones, but,
Right,
we do walk to the post office, and you have to take your life in your hand when you go down the street.
so absolutely, thank you for coming in front of us.
Okay,
and we'll
that's
pass on
all
the
I wanted to
information. So
address.
We definitely understand, how important this is and how much of a problem it is, so
Yeah, okay.
we're working on it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone here for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move to our first appointment, resignation, as an appointment for Historical Commission. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from Michael Karen of the Historical Commission asking the board to appoint Alan Trammell to the commission. The commission invited Mr. Trammell to one of their meetings and voted at their meeting on January 15th, 2018, to recommend the Board of Selectmen make the appointment. The term of the appointment is 3 years, therefore, it would expire June 30th, 2021. I would recommend the board make the appointment.
Thank you. What are the wishes of the board?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Trammell to Historical Commission.
Thank you. Motion is second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is an appointment for the WRTA. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. As you're aware, I have been the town's representative for the WRTA board. I was discussing this appointment with Mr. Robert Howard, who is interested in serving as the town's member. Due to my schedule, I'm not able to attend all the meetings and feel Mr. Howard would be able to better serve the town in this capacity. I would recommend the board make the appointment.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. What are the wishes of the board?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Robert Howard as the town's representative for the WRTA board.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3, a resignation for the Activities Council. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is an email from Barbara Mazzaronian, resigning from the Charlton Arts and Activities Council due to family-related matters. I would recommend the board accept the resignation, and we will post the opening on cable and the town's website.
Thank you. What are the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
I would move that we accept the resignation with regret.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Second.
And a second. Discussion? I would ask we send a letter of thanks. Sorry for stealing words.
No, I was just going to
Mr.
say,
Swenson?
Ms. Matarosian was a very active and contributing member of the Arts and Activities Council. She'll be a big loss, so I would absolutely ask that we put that, draft that letter.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Graber?
I had received communication from the Cultural Arts and Activities Council. They have had several members who have, that's one council that they have term limits, so they can only serve for so many years and then they need to come off. We've had several members that we haven't had new members be able to go on, and they've had to stay on. But we are facing right now probably we will not have a commission, a council, if we do not have people come forward. So I want to let you know that. I'd like to let people at home know that. If anyone has an interest in being on the Arts Council, even if you can just commit for maybe the next 2 years, it's a great position. It's very community involved, and if anyone has any questions, they certainly can contact our office.
Absolutely.
But we're looking for more than one person
Yeah,
right now.
and it's interesting how they have those term limits, and this is, I believe, state regulated. So a lot of
Yes.
people who want to serve can't legally serve. So if you know someone, please, express, who would have any interest, please reach out.
Thank you.
They help put on the art show at Old Home Day every year. They give grants out to community art projects. It's very important. Thank you for bringing that up.
Without that, we will not be able to disperse the grant money.
Correct.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
there's no age limit, correct?
I'm not aware of that. I would have to look into that.
Through the
Okay.
chair.
Mr. McGrath?
Also, if we could maybe reach out to the school system and mention to them, Shepherd Hill has a huge arts and activities group.
Yes, I should have said not age limit, minimum age requirement is what I was going
You're old
My
enough.
bad, my bad.
Or not too old.
Mr. Swenson?
I'm just asking for clarification. Is this for the Cultural Council or the Arts and Activities Council? They're two different
Cultural
organizations.
Council.
Cultural Council.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we'll find out if there's a minimum age requirement. So, Ms. Grodowski, spread the word.
I will.
All right, we'll now move on to scheduled appointments, slightly behind for a 6:40 appointment, and this is a joint appointment for the planning board alternate. Ms. Craver, and I'll also ask the planning board to come on up.
Yes, sir. There's a vacancy on the planning board for an alternate member. The opening has been running on cable and the town's website as the board policy states. The planning board received 2 letters of interest and interviewed both candidates at their meeting on January 24th, 2018, and they are recommending the appointment of Don Clay to fill the vacant seat. The vote for appointment must be done jointly and by roll call vote by both boards.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. Mr. Sarkis, Mr. Clay, welcome, planning board, welcome. I'll ask you, I would invite you to open your meeting.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the planning board meeting, do a roll call. Jean? Here. Ross? Here. Alicia?
Here.
And myself here.
Thank you. Would you like to make the motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Don Clay as our alternate planning board member. Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect, you have a motion and a second. I ask you to please have a roll call vote, and I'll take a roll call vote at my board as well.
Okay, do I have a roll call? Jean?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Ross? Yes. Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Mr. Swenson?
Aye.
Mr. Singer?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay,
Looks like the motion passes.
thank you.
All right, Mr. Clay, welcome. Thank you so much for your interest in serving.
What I'd like to do is, at this time, just pass out a pamphlet to you people, the selectmen. At our roundabout table, you guys were kind of interested in some of the project statuses that the planning board's been working with. And then you were also interested in how we were advertising the town. And we had mentioned about this magazine that we've been using. So what I'd like to do is give each member
Oh, please.
this to take home and show you what the planning board's been doing.
Thank you.
Going from there.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
Since I was unable to make the last meeting, where do we stand with the town planner?
It has been posted today.
Okay, super, excellent, thank you.
So thank you for your patience and, thank you for all the important work you've done on it as well.
And that's the other thing, I'd like to thank everybody, the EDC, the Board of Selectmen, and the Planning Board, and the FinCom, for being active participants in that. We know you've been patiently waiting.
Yeah. And we know that the need is there and the work is definitely there as well. Thank you very much. Just gonna make sure we get this in our minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Yes, sir. If you have an extra one, we could use it for the minutes. Thank you very much.
We have to adjourn others.
I would recommend it.
Okay. Do you have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Welcome aboard, Mr. Clay.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome, Mr.
Enjoy.
Duckers. Thank you, planning board.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We'll now move on to our 6:45 appointment. There's a public hearing for a request for pole for Bailey's Road. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached, you'll find a request from National Grid seeking to install one SO pole on Bailey's Road. Also attached is a notice that was sent to the abutters. This request has been forwarded and approved by both the Chief of Police and Highway Superintendent. No comments or concerns have been received. The chairman should open the public hearing by reading the notice that was sent to the abutters.
Thank you very much, and I will do so right now. This is a public hearing notice. The Charlton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 30th, 2018, at 6:45 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, to act on a request from National Grid seeking permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures, along and across the following public ways. Bailey's Road. National Grid to install one SO pole on Bailey's Road beginning at a point approximately 1,200 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Dresser Hill Road and continuing approximately 40 feet in a southerly direction. National Grid to install 35C3 stub pole, anchor, and guy across the street south of pole 49 to protect infrastructure. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should appear on the date and time specified or submit any concerns in writing, and the public hearing is open at 6:49 p.m. Ms. Craver, you did not have any comments,
No, sir.
concerns? Is there anyone here for this public meeting? Sir, thank you. If you have any questions,
No, does everybody understand what we're asking for?
Mhm.
Okay.
right.
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion we close the public hearing.
Thank you. Motion is second to close the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes, and the hearing is now closed at 6:50 p.m.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we allow National Grid to install one SO pole on Bailey's Road, beginning at a point approximately 1,200 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Dresser Hill Road and continuing approximately 40 feet in a southerly direction. National Grid to install 35C3 stub pole, anchor and guy across the street south of pole 49 to protect infrastructure.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
We are 10 minutes early for our 7 o'clock appointment, so if I can indulge the board, if we can
They
go.
are here.
Nope.
You might want to just ask.
Ms. Vero, or did you want to be taken 10 minutes early?
I can do it.
Come on up.
All right. Mr. Chair.
Yes, yep.
Okay. There have been several inquiries as to why the principal and not the interest is being reimbursed for the water betterments. Karen Ferrero is one of those people, has requested to be placed on the board's agenda regarding the matter. As you know, the town's position was to make this as fair as possible. When the betterments were assessed, residents were advised that they could pay the full betterment up front or pay over time, which would include an interest fee. Some residents chose to pay the full amount up front to avoid the interest fee. They may have foregone vacations, interest on their money, leaving it in the bank, or other priorities and such to do this. Some residents decided to pay the betterment over time, which carried with it an interest charge which best suited their budgetary needs. In order to make this a fair process for all, after reviewing with the finance team, it was decided we would reimburse only the principal. This keeps it fair. I have been told by some residents that the people that paid the full amount up front had the money. This is a false statement. As I stated, they had foregone possibly vacations and other things in order to pay the full amount. I have attached a sample letter that was mailed to the owners' properties related to this, advising them how to apply for their betterment reimbursement. Mrs. Ferrero was scheduled for 7 o'clock, and you have agreed to take her early so she can go home.
Thank you and welcome. Before we begin, just ask you please, if you want to both state your name and address for the record, and you may have the floor.
Okay, my name is Karen Fierro. My address that I'm concerned about is 3A South Sturbridge Road.
And sir, your name and address for the record?
Gary Shower Senior, her husband.
Yep. Okay. Ms. Vero, please take it away.
Okay, in response to that, I have to totally disagree. For the fact is, I've done research and I've talked to people who paid their money up front, all of it. And they feel the way I do, is that we should be getting our interest back. Some did take it out of, one in particular told me that she took it out of her 401K to pay it. She's retired now, but she would like the people who paid, we paid 3.9% interest over a 4-year period versus, which I have records from Webster First Bank and Southbridge Cooperative Bank of their interest rates. And the most is about 1%, and that's on a CD for a 60-month period. So I do not see how this is fair, because we not only lost the 3.9%, but we also lost our 1% interest fees too, that if we had that money in the bank, we would have gotten interest on that money. So now we not only lost the 3.9, we've also lost another 1%. So how does this equal out as being fair?
Right. Before we get into that discussion, I just kind of want to set take it back a step and see the whole, start the story out, where the people who were charged this betterment, we install water infrastructure in front of several houses, which then triggers a betterment process. Part of our negotiations with Exxon and the lawsuit was that we wanted to take some of that sum of money and pay back residents. So normally, if there wasn't a lawsuit, there wasn't any kind of financial benefit to the town from that lawsuit, that this betterment would just be charged as normal. And our goal was to make sure that we made, residents, to help them out, and where we felt that they weren't needed to pay that money. Is that correct, Ms. Greer?
Yes, sir. The town was adamant that they wanted to make sure that the betterment charges were reimbursed. The issue certainly is the interest and how people chose to pay that. The issue certainly also is that the money that came from Exxon to pay the water betterment was just that, the water betterment. The other monies are going back to the taxpayer who paid the debt and interest over years. Some of the money is going to the water department to pay for their staffing over the next 2.5 years, as well as putting money aside for capital. So interests were not a factor in those negotiations. So at this point, you would be asking the taxpayer to pay the interest rates for people who chose to pay their betterments over time.
Ms. Bureau?
Yes, I have a question there. You just said we're going to be asking the taxpayers. Why would we be asking the taxpayers when there's still almost, I'm just going to round it off, $3 million left from the Exxon Mobil settlement fund? So why would it come from the taxpayers? We're asking for it to come from this Exxon Mobil fund, that there is still $3 million left
Because
out of $8 million.
Because the funding that came from there, the remainder and balance, is the foregone capital that the taxpayers would have received. It's not free money. I mean, it has been negotiated. There's not a pot of money that's just sitting there that was not intended for a particular use.
Well, I think we have paid our debt. we have. And 3.9% interest was a lot of interest for a lot of people to pay, especially people living on a fixed income. Those are the people that really could not afford, no matter how bad they tried to scrape up money, could not afford to come up with this kind of money to pay that embetterment in full. And then to me, the town is benefiting 3.9% interest, if you want to keep it, plus another 3 million from Exxon.
So I believe when we installed the infrastructure, all those pipes, the town upfronted that, the cost of installing that, is that correct?
That's correct.
So we had to
Yeah,
borrow
but-
money and pay that money to build that infrastructure. And the betterment, all it does is saying, we paid the money for this, we were also charged interest. And then we're asking the people whose properties were bettered, who will have access to town water, which property values has increased because of that, to pay back that money.
So are you giving me two different things now? Because what I'm told, when I was first told, it was something totally different. It was because it was not fair for people who paid the betterment up front versus people who chose to pay it over 20 years, and now you're just telling me something different? Is that what I'm understanding?
Mr. McGrath?
No, whenever a municipality does a project, such as a water line, a sewer line, or anything of that nature, which requires pump stations, large amounts of cash, okay, we have to do a borrowing. When we borrow the money to better people's property, and this is through the state, we're allowed to do this, we're allowed to charge a betterment fee. For the people that pay up front, they don't have to pay interest because we don't have to borrow money to cover their costs. The people that don't pay up front, we have to borrow money to cover their costs. And we are allowed by the state to recoup that money, that interest money. And that's where the interest money has gone. The interest money has gone to the bonding that we use to put that infrastructure in. Now, when we negotiated with Mobile Exxon, part of the negotiations were, which the Water and Sewer Commission was involved in, this board was involved in, and we had legal counsel. And we asked about what we could get from Mobile Exxon to make the taxpayers whole. What we were told we could do is, we could go after Mobile Exxon for the cost of the infrastructure that's in the ground. And that's what we did. The remaining balance, as Ms. Craver has said, because of the cost of the projects that are going to go on with Mobile Exxon, with the pump stations that have to be put in, the construction that has to be done, the engineering that has to be handled, is going to be covered by the, whatever number it is, 3 million or whatever. That's, you know, I have no idea what it is. That's a water and sewer project. So that's the gist of what has happened here. And it was the same thing for sewage. If you talk to anybody over around Glen Echo, they either paid money up front for their betterment, or they didn't. And if they didn't pay the money up front for their betterment, they were charged an interest fee.
Well, if I'm correct, the sewer now, we're going back a few years ago, we weren't offered that option, because I also had to pay an abetment for my sewer line also.
I can't speak to that because I'm not on the water sewer board, but I'll tell you what most municipalities do, because I had to do it with my mother in Grafton. She could not afford to pay the betterment on her property, or she chose not to. I can't remember which one it was, but we paid the interest. And when we went to sell the house to clear the betterment, we had to pay cash at the closing of the house. So I can't say whether Charlton has done that or not, but it's highly unusual that a town would not allow a finance option for a sewer project.
Mr. Swenson?
A couple of questions, if I could. I guess my first question would be why this is before us and not before water sewer.
We're handling the betterment. We're handling this reimbursement program.
Okay. And the finance team, who's the finance team, if I could ask, that voted this? I
That-
wasn't here if it was voted at the
That would
selectmen's
have,
meeting.
that would have been myself, the finance director, the assessor, and the treasurer collector as we put together the program.
Okay.
And we've always talked about just reimbursing the water betterment. If I could also just add regarding the amount of the interest, that was voted by town meeting. So town meeting is the one that set that interest rate and how that would be handled.
I remember that. I just have to say, in all candor, I tend to agree with Ms. Fierro. I mean, my basic concern with this is that I have trouble considering these betterments to be betterments. In my mind, they're not betterments, they're people being made whole for damage that was done to their property. And I think the right thing to do is to have them held harmless at the end of the day. That's just my own personal opinion.
Sir, if you can please come up to the microphone and please state your name and address for the record.
Ron Hokinson,
Yep.
21 Power Station
Yep,
Road.
please make sure you speak right into the
They don't
microphone.
hear me down
Yeah.
there.
We'll share.
All right, 21 Power Station Road, Ron Hokinson. Yeah, I just heard you say it was on you when you took out the money, or arranged for the money at an interest rate. That interest rate was on you, the town. It wasn't on the people in the town. Therefore, if that's on you, I paid the whole thing. So I got the whole thing back. But if I hadn't, I would be expecting to get the whole thing back, including the interest, because I should be held not liable for that. So you got a problem with what's right and what's on the law, but what's right is not the same. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Ms. Graber, do we have a figure of how much the interest is compared to the principal?
The 3% over 4 years, if I use Mrs. Ferrero's amount, she paid $262 in interest. Now, that was, and I believe her betterment was actually $489. Now, you also have betterments that went up to near $30,000. So there were other interests based on that. So I don't know who, there's 27, 29,000. I mean, so I have not done a analysis of what that would cost at this point because, again, it seemed that the most fair thing was to, my concern was also people who just came in and paid the whole thing. Now, are you going to have them coming and saying, well, I lost interest and you've taken care of interest for the people who did it over time? So that was,
Sir?
I hear that from one, but that's my concern systematically and structurally.
If you can please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Richard F. Dubois. I own the property at 21 South Sturbridge Road, which is Dubois Motorsports. I paid $1,669 in interest for those 4 years. That was a lot of money. That's the truth. Got it all calculated. $1,669 I paid interest for 4 years.
Thank you.
Okay?
Mr. McGrath?
To the town administrator. Robin, has anybody else ever paid back betterments before?
Not that I'm aware of.
Could we ask the state and see if that has happened and how other people have handled it?
Yes.
Mr. Swenson?
Also, it'd be possible to get the total amount of interest
total amount.
that
Yeah.
taxpayers have
Okay.
paid.
And Mr. McGrath, I think you brought up a good point about how most cases, the town doesn't pay back a betterment. A betterment's charged for some sort of project. So this is a very special case that, we, like we said earlier, where we went up to bat against Exxon to try to make everyone whole. Mr. Swenson?
I was on the group that negotiated with ExxonMobil, and when the time came up about paying back the betterments that were paid. There wasn't, that I recall, any discussion about interest or that kind of thing, but in my mind, my thought process in doing that was to make sure the townspeople were made whole for what they paid out. And now, sitting here as we're having this discussion, I would consider being made whole, being paid back all that they paid in. I get the other discussions as to the need, you know, why the interest was paid in fairness. I can comprehend all of that, but, you know, I think just personally, my own opinion, I think the most important part is that residents be made whole for an issue that was none of their doing in the first place.
Okay. So I would, it seems like we need to do some more research. I would ask that we make sure we reach out to the state on the total amount of interest paid for all the properties. And then I'll ask we please put this on our next agenda.
Okay.
Okay,
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. So
thank you. I'm
we'll-
pretty sure you guys will do the right decision, the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All set, Ms. Graber?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. We'll move on to new business. Our first item under new business is the Charlton Open Space Plan for a letter of support. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. As you know, we received a community compact grant to update our open space plan. To date, the conservation agent, Todd Gerard, has been working with CMRPC, and the document is ready to be sent to the Division of Conservation Services for their initial review. The document is complete, with the exception of the required letters of support from the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board. Attached is a draft letter for your review and approval. Todd Gerard, the conservation agent, is working with the Planning Board on their letter.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. What are the board's wishes with the letter?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we approve and sign the letter for the open space and recreation plan that the Conservation Commission has drafted.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any discussion? I do want to thank our office and Ms. Graver and Todd for working on this. I know the Community Compact has been so helpful, you know, paying for these things. So I'm sure there's a associated cost with this as well.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I wanna thank Todd for moving forward with this. This has been a long time.
Absolutely.
We've been trying to get this done 15 years.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 2 under new business, a site plan application for Rain for Rent. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. We have received a site plan application submitted to the Planning Board by Rain for Rent, requesting approval to operate an office, material tool storage, and maintenance use in an existing building with an existing parking lot on property located at 28 Trolley Crossing Road. Howlett Lumber previously occupied the site. The property is zoned community business. You are asked to review the plan and provide any comments, if any, to the Planning Board no later than February 6th, next Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Does the board have any comments or questions? Mr. Swenson?
Only comment would be, it'd be great to see that parcel getting some active use again. That would be my only comment.
They're
Absolutely.
gonna take the whole parcel.
That's
I
awesome.
opened up the plan.
That's
I know,
great.
It is here.
I know Milliard Properties has been working with them.
Sure they have. Do you know what Rain for Rent is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Singer?
The big pump, industrial pumps for if you're doing a water main or a sewer. These are inline pumps that they put in, or if you're dewatering something, they have the pumps to dewater, and they also have the settling tanks, the trailers that have the funny single axle in the back, and they're at a funny angle. There's like a big swimming pool.
Yeah, I
What
think
if we
they
could
can,
ask them to set up work down at the Beavers?
They
De-water.
They have the capability.
they also work with fire departments, agriculture, so,
Yes.
you know, if you need water on site, Rain for Rent, you know, they can provide that.
Great. Again, just great to see that parcel getting used again.
Definitely. If there's no questions, thank you very much. We'll move on to our third item, which is another site plan application for 0 Point Development. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. We have received a site plan application submitted to the planning board by Jason DeBose, PE of DC Engineering and Survey Incorporated, on behalf of 0 Point Development, requesting site plan approval to construct 2 ground mount solar arrays to produce an estimated 4.5 megawatt of energy on property located off Osgood Road and Fitzgerald Road. The area subject to the application contains approximately 156 acres and is situated on 3 parcels. Said property is zoned agricultural and low-density residential. You are asked to review the plan and provide any comments, if any, to the planning board no later than Tuesday, February 20th, 2018.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. Does the board have any comments, Mr. Singer?
Mr. Chair, yes, actually, my first comment is I think we're gonna have to revisit the solar photovoltaic array bylaw. I'll go back to what I said before, that Charlton is becoming a big mirror. And the more I drive around, the more eyesores I'm seeing because they're not being blocked from view. So I would ask that any plans that are approved require some kind of barrier, natural barrier, blocking the view of these areas from the neighborhoods and roads that pass by.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Ms. Craver, you can make sure that we send that to the planning board.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to old business. And our only item is the surplus vehicle auction for an update. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. We held a bid opening for Charlton surplus vehicles on Thursday, December 21st. There were 8 vehicles being auctioned off with a set minimum bids. 5 of those vehicles were sold for a total amount of $4,965. There are 3 vehicles that no bids were received for. We recommend at this time that the town administrator's office be authorized to lower the minimum bids and rebid or price out what the sale of scrap would be, whichever is better for the town.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. What are the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chair, I would
Mr.
move-
Singer?
I would move to authorize the town administrator to lower the bid price.
And price out
Yes.
and scrap?
Yes.
Perfect.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Craver.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move on to committee reports. Does anyone have any committee reports? Seeing none, we'll move to our student select persons report. Ms. Grandalski, take it away.
Hi, so, there's 2 big things going on at the Hill. First thing, recently, the, Art Kids published a video for this thing they took part in called the Memory Project, where we're each assigned, a youth from the Philippines, a portrait, and they created it with different mediums and art. And then the photos were sent back to the Philippines, and each of the kids got to see the picture that was done of them by different kids in the United States and in the area, and they really liked it. So they created a video of it, and it's posted at vimeo.com/memoryproject/Shepherd Hill, if anyone wants to see that. And then also coming up this weekend is a show choir competition. It's 2 days, and up front I have printouts if anyone wants to see the different schools that are going to it. And through the project, through the competition, we're going to be doing this project called the Thirst Project, where we'll be trying to collect $1 each of the kids at Shepherd Hill and the different schools attending to raise at least $4,000 to build a wall in Africa in a small village. And if we can get 4,000 here and then at different events throughout the year, we're going to try and be able to build one for a total of $12,000.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all.
Mr. Swenson.
Just because you said to build a wall?
No, to build a well.
A well. So if you can do it before, then never mind.
Come on.
No, nope, not gonna go there. Very commendable, thank you.
Any questions for a student select person? Thank you, Ms. Gronowski.
Yep.
Oh, how did midterms go? Or finals?
They were good.
Oh, midterms. Midterms. Oh, good. All right, town administrator's report. Ms. Graver?
As I've been out this week, I do not have one at this time for you, but I do have something under other business.
Well, let's move on to other business. It was unknown at the time of posting. The first one is a public records request. Ms. Graver?
Yes, sir. As you know, with the forensic report, there was material that was sent directly from Lanson and Heath to 3 of the state agencies, the Attorney General, the District Attorney, and Ethics. The District Attorney and the AG's office have both determined that they are not going to be taking out or opening any cases. When you had received this records request for the full bulk amount, at that time, the direction of the board was to check with the state agencies to see if there was anything that they wanted held redacted until the investigation was complete. At this time, those 2 agencies are not moving forward, and the ethics department will neither confirm or deny that they have anything. So at this point, the Telegram and Gazette has made a second request asking for the materials to be released, and I am coming to you to ask for direction.
Thank you. And we asked council if this is considered a public document, correct?
It is.
What is the board's wishes?
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion we honor the public records request since there's no open litigation by any state or local authorities.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you very much. Is there any other business unknown at the time of posting? And if that's it, we have reached the end of our meeting. Our next regular meeting will be February 13th. Have a great night.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, I'm sorry, motion to adjourn. Jumped ahead of time. Is there a motion to adjourn?
There is a motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, chair votes aye, motion passes. We are now adjourned at 7:20. Our next meeting will be February 13th. Have a great night.